Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Millie. Thank you for being here today. How good it is to be here at CSL Denver. I always love speaking here because I love this community. And of course, as senior minister is just awesome, right? You guys know that. You get the best. And now you have this beautiful space, which is a historic church. So if there's any of you who have not been here in Denver to visit this community, you need to treat yourself to this. It is beautiful, historic church on Grant Street, 216 South Grant. So today, for the second week in 2023, we're going to be talking about the thing itself. So as we look at our January here with Science of Mind, we always do like a little reboot, right? So we have our little refresher course. When I was growing up, when I was in the fundamentalist church, what I would do is I would go to revivals. I don't know if any of you know or have been to revivals, but if you grew up in something like that, it was kind of like the same thing. It was a reboot, but the only thing is you would go there so that you could be refilled with spirit. You could be refilled with the Holy Ghost because, you lost some of it along the way. So you had to, get your cup filled again. And so with our little reboot, with our talk, with our teachings here, we do this every January. We do a metaphysical revival. So today, the talk is on the thing itself. This is the first chapter of the Science of Mind text. And I must admit, when I first read it, I thought, now, this is strange. What's the thing? I had just come out of the church, it was God, Jesus, all of these names that I was familiar with. I was not familiar with the thing. So let me tell you a little bit about the thing, because this is what we're called to do. We're called to be one with the thing. We're called to be just imbued and loved and embraced by the thing itself. When I found religious science, I began to learn about the thing. And the thing is that the thing does not go by a particular name. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't care. Sometimes I call it Dad because that's my preference. So I love that. But let's continue with this back to basics. Today we all talk about the thing, and what we have learned about it is that it is pure love, just like our readings before and our prayer by our practitioner, Teresa. We are called to love. We are called to be one in love and as love, and to just embrace this love. This love, this thing, is a creative power. It is creative intelligence. And it's universal, and it exists in us, in all of us. We co-create with the thing itself. And we know that it is mind that makes it so. When I first entered these teachings, to hear these type of words and to hear about back to basics, it was great for me because when I first came to these teachings, it was around the late fall, November or so. And so to enter into that January thing where we did this new thought, whole reboot thing, was very informative to me because I didn't know what that was. And although I was learning as we went along, what I loved about it was that it got so back to basics until I could understand. I can understand that no matter where I was, where I am, God is, because I'm a part of God. God is within me. I'm not looking outside of myself for some being or some approval from something that is in the clouds and far away. It is right within me. I used to use those revivals when I was growing up, hoping that I would be good enough, that I would be, that I would find enough God within me for favor, so to speak. Some people would use that term favor, having that favor in God. Now, that was one term I never did get. It's like, what does that mean? Does it mean that you're better than I am? You're more saved than I am? What does that mean, being in favor? I'm blessed and highly favored, whatever. This is what I can tell you about this right now. We are all one. When that sunk into my head during one of those January things, I realized that. And thank you for that first slide. We believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in man, and that all men are incarnations of one Spirit. Who knew? Who knew growing up, as some of us did, that we actually were one? We were incarnations of the one. This is what I know. So Dr. Holmes tells us that this creative power, which we call God, would not create us in bondage and then leave us bound, right? What is bondage? What does that mean? Some of you may know this is called original sin, all right? So you were born in original sin, and then you had to work your way out of that and make yourself worthy enough for God to want to bless you to be able to go to heaven once you died. So you begin to live your life preparing for death and to get out of this original sin, which you were never able to do because you were not ever good enough not to sin. That is quite a burden. It was a burden for me. And when I found religious science and got that monkey off my back, I was just ecstatic. How amazing. Yes, I'm good enough. I'm always good enough. I am. So we've had that. Let's go first with one of our declarations of principle. So as we see in our slide, our first slide, this is going to be my first point. We are God in expression. We don't have to wait to be found worthy of the love of God. Our teachings teach us to live in conscious awareness of the law of cause and effect. Our thinking is creative, and we should align ourselves with this power, which is all about love. What I love about that is that, yes, our thinking is creative, which lets us know that what we think about, we bring about. So if you think of things that are unhappy, if you think of everything is going to be wrong all the time, then it will be. It will be exactly that. Because spirit does not know any difference from what you think and what it does. It answers whatever your prayer is, whatever your thinking is. And every thought is a prayer. We don't realize this sometimes. But just as we're saying, have you ever met someone that something always happens to them? Come on, you have. Something always happened to them. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, that happens to me. And I listen to them sometime and I think, oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing this. Why am I listening to what everything is happening to you? And that I asked one friend of mine one time, I said, have you thought about maybe changing your thinking? Maybe instead of thinking about what is happening to you or what has happened to you, have you thought about it in the opposite? Have you thought about looking for the good that surrounds you instead of all of the possibilities of the bad? And a lot of us have done that. We have looked at all the possibilities. Oh, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. If you ever been to ministerial school, you wonder if you're ever going to get out. You know, it's like, oh my God, what is this instructor thinking? Oh, he isn't. He is just giving it to me to help me think. So this is what it is that we do. Our goal is to see the world as one all-inclusive organism, working together and co-creating as one expression of the divine. This brings me to my second point on slide 2. He who knows himself has come to know his Lord. So what does this mean? The master teacher knew that I and my Father are one. So what was Jesus saying? He knew that spirit, that he was one in spirit. He knew that there was no God outside of himself. He had incorporated that into himself. And because he was the master teacher, he came here to show us how to do this, how to be this, how to just be present. And what has happened throughout the years, throughout the thousands of years since he existed here on this earthly plane, so many people have taken this teachings, they've taken it and skewed it for themselves, instead of saying, listening to what Jesus said when he said, the things that I do, ye shall do and greater. He meant exactly that. So I had a lot of questions when I was in the Pentecostal church. And that was one of them. Well, if God says that what he does, I'm going to do in greater is greater, let's do it, And sometimes what we get is miracles. That was for back then. Those kind of miracles don't happen anymore. Yet, how often have you seen prayers answered where people were healed, right? That is the main thing that we look at. Look at the teachers before now, our transcendentalists. They really believed in that power of prayer. And so this is what we did. But we didn't do it then because it was not a way that would instill fear. If we just embraced that oneness, if we embraced who we were, if we would do that today, what would happen is this. There would be peace. There would be peace on earth. There's plenty of food and everyone would have access to it. There would be plenty of money and everyone would have access to it. But here's the thing, we have access to it, but we don't use it. We go out and we look for what is wrong, or we look outside of ourselves for these blessings, and our source being our job or someone else, instead of our source being spirit. Once we awaken to this new thinking, we realize that there's still work to do. If you were not raised in this teaching, like me, there's a lot of trauma involved during this time because fear of hell is powerful. One of the first things I rejoiced about when I found these teachings was that I was not going to hell. Hallelujah. Here I am, good enough, favored enough, loved enough by that divine that is within me to know that hell is something someone created. It is not mine. I'm not going there. I don't care who thinks they're going. I'm not. So there you have it. Can we have slide 3? Make thyself to grow the same stature as the greatness which transcends all measure. What does that mean? What does that mean to us? We are being invited to growth and opportunities. We're being invited to know ourselves. And as we do that, we grow, we expand. It's what Spirit put us here for. We're not here to be small. If you're trying to be small in order to make someone else feel comfortable, you are living beneath your privileges. Because this is not what we are here to do. We're here to be large, to live large, to be large. Large is different to different people. For some people, it's copious amount of money. For some, it's copious amounts of friends, etc. What does living large mean to you? What it means to me is being my authentic self, because I've tried so hard to fit in certain situations. You know, when I was in my other church, I wanted to make sure that I was holy enough. When I was in, just whatever, you name it, wherever you are, where you feel yourself trying to measure yourself against your surroundings, you're living beneath your privileges. Because this is what happens. Your privileges, your surroundings, your love, your growth starts right here. It starts in your heart and in your heart space. And so this is what we're here to surround ourselves with, to be one with all that is. We are unlimited. We're absolutely unlimited. We are individuals who are free to make our own decisions. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. And as spiritual beings, our possibilities are infinite. This awareness moves us out of traditional roles, such as villain, victim, or hero, and move into a world of creators and collaborators, creating a world that works for everyone, spirit working with spirit. Just breathe that in. What would it be like to be working with spirit everywhere you go, in every way? What would it be like when you look at people, when you look at other beings, not just people, you look at other beings on the planet and you see God looking back at you? Now, a lot of times we feel that real unconditional love with our animals, right? We do. Dogs love us no matter what. But if we can look at each other the way a dog looks at us, right? What would that be like? No judgment, no care in the world, except I love you so much that I love me that much first. So you have that love, you're giving that love, you're watching that love be reflected back to you. This is what the thing itself does to us. It makes us aware of this unconditional love that we have that is within each of us. And yet sometimes we don't use it. We're a little bit too busy engaging in passivity and those sorts of things. And, only to realize that, wait a minute, that's a face of God also. That is God in expression also. No matter what our awareness, this is a face of God. Can you bring up slide number? My slides may be different, yes. This is the new birth that comes through a new outlook on life, a new way of thinking, a new sense of our relationship to ourselves and our environment, to the people around us, to ourselves, and to God. Getting along with people is kind of what I was talking about a second ago. Getting along with people does not mean condoning any bad actions or actions that you consider bad. But what it means is this: they're the face of God. That's okay. They are who they are. Just let them be who they are. And I'm talking to myself when I say this, because sometimes I have a hard time with that. I look, you're a jerk. And then I'm like, wait a minute. You can't call any names there. And you just I forgive myself and just try to move on, because it's just not easy. So this is what I would do. As a society, we are still exiting the worst part of the pandemic right now, right? And so at this time, we're in great change and grief. We've had to learn to do things differently. And so what this calls us to do is, if I can't do things the way I used to be, what can I do? The way I used to do it, what can I do? It is totally up to you. This is what God teaches us. This is what Spirit, Yahweh, whatever you choose to call it, teaches us. Is to go it first of all from that place of love. And as we are there, then think from there. When you're in a situation that is just really difficult and you have a hard time just processing it, take a few minutes to take a deep breath and just close your eyes for a moment and then just go within. We have slide number 6. So if you want sunshine, step out into the sunshine. If you have locked yourself away in a dark closet, why not come out into the light? If you have been feeling that everything is against you and no one really cares for you, know that God is in everyone and meet the God in others and see what happens. This is exceptionally important now because we're still in the pandemic. There's an uptick, right? And now with all of the other respiratory illnesses that's going around, we find ourselves caving and staying in. It's kind of easy for me to stay home some days rather than go out and be exposed. That's what I was thinking during the 2020 and 2021. Like, it's okay. I can work from home. I'm golden. And if you don't watch it, it's easy to go back into that place mentally and spiritually right now. But just know that when you get out and you get a chance to be with God everywhere. As you see God everywhere, cloak yourself in that protection of spirit and just know that wherever you are, God is, and you're good to go. So even if you do get sick, it happens. Just pray your way through it. Treat your way through it. Because in religious science, we call this treating. Dr. Holmes states in Science of Mind text, page 26, the study of the science of mind is the study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. We have the power. Use it, embrace it, accept it, and know that you are powerful. We are powerful beings. We're tough. We're bad, right? We can do this. We can do whatever it is we set our minds to because our thoughts are creative. This is what we're here to do. We're here to co-create with that spirit that exists within us and says that you can be and do and have anything you want because you are unlimited. We are so unlimited. And it's just time. And I'm saying this for myself. In 2023, I'm stepping into that. I'm owning my authenticity. And this is what I invite you all to do. Own your authenticity. Own your greatness, your largeness. Yes, live loud enough in your heart, and there's no need to speak. Live so that when people look at you, they see a light coming toward them. This happens. Has anyone ever walked up to you on the street or in a place and asked you for prayer? Well, if it hasn't, it's happened to me. You know, I was at the gym one day and this woman comes to me and says, could you pray for my daughters? And I'm sort of looking at her and like, do I know her? Have I seen her in this gym before? You know, and that happens. But live your life so that your light shines on the world. People see it and they see that there's something about you that they want. And then introduce them to the science of mind. Oh, really? Well, come to my church. Come to 216 South Grant Street. Pick up Ernest Holmes. He's a wonderful philosopher. Live loud. Live in your heart. Live big, right? So be the change that you want to see in the world. And just know that universal principles are never respecters of persons. No one is more highly favored than you. No one is better than you. We all have access to the thing itself, and we can utilize it. Ernest Holmes writes, universal principles are never respecters of persons. The universe has no favorites. Therefore it is written, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. That last sentence is from the book of Revelations that Ernest quotes because he loves scriptures. So be the change you want to see in the world and allow your light to shine from within. You don't need permissions. You are worthy. You don't have to beg or beseech God. God will accept you just as you are. So affirm, as God is, I am, we are. What I'd like to do in conclusion, I have a reading that I would like to do for the closing prayer. And it's a call for each of us. Feel free to close your eyes with this reading and just take it in. Or if you choose not to, that's okay. But this is a charge to you. There will come a time in your life in which you will have to accept that your old ways cannot carry you any longer. You will know it is time to light fire to the past and shed your old self. When the heaviness slows you to a stop, a reinvention might occur. There will come a time in your life when you will realize that a new version of yourself is trying to emerge. You are allowed to cry and grieve the loss, but you must also keep your eyes toward what's next. It's time to wipe the slate clean and start again. It's time to break the chains of routine and expectation and fear. It's time to become different and stronger and clearer, at once new, and yet more yourself than ever before. And so it is.